All this is Dr. Mobeen Sayed from drbeen.com. Welcome to one more show. So today we will have two talks. One is this talk, and the other one will be after this one. Both of those talks are very, very interesting. The second one is actually especially interesting because of the memory cell discussion that we'll do. So let's start with this talk. This is a study that is on CDC, and this study shows how the protection caused or created by the natural infection is superior to protection even by vaccination. And that is a beautiful study. The data is from California and New York, very large cohorts. Although study has some limitations as well because it is mostly an observational study. But let's look at that study and let's see if we can do that within 10 minutes. Then we'll hang up and come back with the second study, which is even more exciting than this one. So I have no disclosures. This is the one of the paintings that I had done a couple of weeks ago, Moon and the Window. And this is digital oils 2000 by 1500. So we are in the B1529 or Omicron variant era, and hopefully the B2 would actually be even better than this one. So here's the medical disclaimer. Now, this is a large study. Let me show you quickly the study itself. The links are in the description too. Here is the study. This is the study. I've marked various parts of it. Then it has a supplemental data set as well with the various diagrams. So we'll look into that. Let's first see the summary of the points, and then we'll go over remaining parts. So here are some, many people have actually covered this study, but I have some points that are very interesting. Number one, across the entire study period, persons with vaccine and infection-derived immunity had much lower rates of hospitalization compared with those in unvaccinated persons. So this statement is saying person who is vaccinated plus who had the infection. And you would see moving forward that person who just had the infection had also a very robust immune response and protection, almost the same as vaccine plus previous infection. So, which I would translate that as previous infection. Although we all know, and let's just put that at the table, seeking out the infection can be dangerous and lethal. So, that is not the recommendation. But those who survived, here is their story and here is their protection levels. Importantly, infection derived protection so naturally acquired immunity, infection derived protection was greater after the highly transmissible delta variant became predominant, coinciding with early declining of the vaccine induced immunity in many persons. So that is one. What they're saying over here is they're kind of implying that the people who had the infection, their infection protection was continuing while the uh, vaccine induced protection was waning. My next lecture after this one, actually, I'll show you something where you would see that protection continued 18 years after the infection. This is what I had talked about last year. So we will see that in the next study. So, one more comment from the study where they're saying present study after July. Recent international studies have also demonstrated, as we observed in the present study after July, recent international studies have also demonstrated increased protection in persons with previous infection, with or without vaccination. With or without vaccination, actually, the difference is really negligible between them. So, if somebody is vaccinated and infected, or somebody is just infected and recovered, they both are almost equal. They took so much time to realize this, and I still do not see their policies accounting this all in. Although they have said, I believe, CDC has said that anybody who has gotten the infection has 3 months protection and can be expected to be, as equal to vaccine. I think that's a very tiny duration of window, but still, they recognize something. Now, whereas French and Israeli populations based studies noted waning protection from previous infection, this was not apparent in the result from this or other large UK and US studies. So they're saying that Israeli and French studies showed that even previous infection may be showing waning, although they did not observe that in UK and US. Then here is another very interesting part of this study, and that is this median interval for infection. So median is really the center point of the data set. So there are two equal groups on both sides. What is the exact number of days in there? Not known. But this is a very interesting one. That is, imagine if you're thinking that, hey, I got previously infected and recovered. What is my chances of getting the infection again? When could I mean, not that you're seeking for it, but you have that concern. Or somebody who has gotten the vaccine, what is their chance of getting the infection again? Now consider this, that this is really, this chance would keep becoming longer and longer, because as the more and more of the community becomes protected, less and less chance for the recurrence. So this is the chance in the delta time, and that was in California. If somebody was vaccinated or previously infected, within 4 to 5 months, they might have the median time, 4 to 5 months, they'll become infected again. In New York, if somebody was infected or previously, vaccinated, then within 5 to 5.5 months, they could become infected again. Again, these are median values, not average value. They also haven't given us the mode. So this is just a median. That is the middle value of the data set. So that was a very interesting one. And please realize the study that we are looking at, this is the cases, just the cases in it were 1 million. Of course, they saw a larger cohort, and out of them, 1 million cases were picked, and then they were analyzed. This is an observational study, so it's not a prospective study. That is its weakness, but still it's very interesting. They have adjusted for the age, so comparison should be interesting and accurate. Now this is another important one, and that is the all vaccines offered protection. However, Johnson and Johnson, or Janssen, showed less protection than Pfizer, and the best protection was offered by Moderna. But they all had decent protection. Now let's look at this. This is cases. Cases, New York and California. Imagine all the cases in unvaccinated individuals. You take them as reference and then compare vaccinated and the cases in them to this, or vaccinated plus previously infected to this, or just the previously infected. Very interesting. So look at this. Vaccinated, unvaccinated. California, the cohort that they studied, about 18% were unvaccinated, and New York, 18.4%. And these two states together make about 18% of the population of the US as well. So it's a large set. So you use unvaccinated cases as a reference. And then you say, all right, those who are vaccinated, how less the risk of infection in them, or less hazard ratio. So here is what they found. 6.2 times, 6.2 fold lower incidence in vaccinated in California. And I'm going to compare that to just previously infected. 29 times lower incidence in previously infected. So compare a person who is vaccinated to an unvaccinated person's risk, and compare a person with the previous infection. So vaccinated had 6.2 times lower risk or incidence, not risk really, incidence. Unvaccinated and only previously infected, 29 times lower, and vaccinated and previously infected, 32.5 times lower. So if you see, the difference between 29 to 32.5 is not very large. Still, it is important, but they both are kind of in a similar ballpark. So if somebody was previously infected or previously infected plus vaccinated, there was similar protection, and that protection is far excessive compared to just the vaccination. Similar numbers with the New York. In the New York, the cohort that were unvaccinated, and if you take the incidence in them as a reference, then vaccinated had 4.5 times lower incidence. Previously infected had 14.7 times lower incidence, and previously infected plus vaccinated had 19.8 times lower incidence. And I've put the dates over here, which are very interesting. So, dates, for example, vaccinated, they took those people who were vaccinated by May 16th. And they had done this study from May 13 to November 2021. Similarly, they saw previously infected up to March 1. So there was a decent gap. And that is, remember when the Kentucky study I presented and I criticized that that study didn't have the correct data and the leaning was incorrect towards vaccine efficacy? And it kind of was dinging the previously infected's benefit. And I got such uh, angry comments and pushback. And here is a study. All right, so continuing. So, here, what is the takeaway of this one? Somebody who's previously infected and recovered, or previously infected and recovered and vaccinated, has much better robust immune response compared to just vaccinated. Now, this is also very interesting. Somebody who is previously infected, previously infected. So, if you take now two groups, one group is previously infected people's group, and another group is vaccinated groups. The vaccinated group had 3 times higher the incidence rate of the previously infected in California. And vaccinated group had 1.9 times higher the incidence rate compared to unvaccinated in New York. Sorry, compared to previously infected in New York. Previous infection was offering 3.1 times better, reduction or incidence rate. Beautiful. Now check this out. If somebody is vaccinated and previously infected, so the one before that I showed, that is unvaccinated and previously infected, that is just the previously infected. Now, if somebody was previously infected and vaccinated, if you take them as a reference, then vaccinated only, once again, 3.6 times higher incidence rate in California and 2.8 times higher in New York. Beautiful, isn't it? We were over here talking about this for a year and a half. And after this talk, I'll do one more talk about 18 years long memory protection with one more study that just came out today. And I'll share that with you. Hospitalizations, this is only the data from California. So this is very interesting. The question is the risk of hospitalization or the incidence rate of the hospitalization in vaccinated, previously infected, and vaccinated and infected compared to unvaccinated. So check this out. If you take unvaccinated's hospitalization as a reference, then vaccinated had 19.8 times lower risk of going to hospital. Unvaccinated and previously infected, that is previously infected, 55.3 times lower. And vaccinated and previously infected, 57.5 times lower, almost similar. So you can see that vaccine is really not doing a lot. Again, I would repeat that seeking out the infection can be dangerous. So these are the folks who unfortunately accidentally became infected and now are there, and here is their protection. So I wanted to show you a couple of things in this chart. One thing that is really interesting, so in this chart, if we can just very quickly orient ourselves, on the left side is the hazard rate. So this vertical column, or the height, is the hazard rate. The horizontal is the duration or time periods. So the big blue line that looks like this mountain over here, that is the hazard rate in um, unvaccinated. So take that as a reference. At the bottom, if you see, there are three lines. One is vaccinated only, one is vaccinated plus previously infected, and then previously infected only. This big dashed blue line down here is vaccinated. And then if you see down below that, two lines that are bunched together, these are previously infected and previously infected plus vaccinated. They really do not have much difference. And who is making that difference? Who's keeping them the same? Previous infection. So previous infection has the best outcome in terms of protection or incidence rate or has estimated hazard rate. There is another thing that is very interesting, and that is, check out the boosters here. So they're saying start of Delta variant predominance greater than 50%, that is June 27. Then in August 8, additional primary mRNA vaccine dose for certain immunocompromised persons. But if you see, there is not much movement. And that is because the data is small, but still there is not enough movement in there. Data is small. This is still 750,000 cases in California and about 300 something cases in New York. So it's not small like 10 or 5 or 2. It's small in hundreds and thousands. Booster for persons aged greater than 65 years, Pfizer BioNTech booster for certain persons aged greater than 18, for example, healthcare workers and others. And if you see here, once again, there is not much of a change downwards or upwards. Then Moderna booster for certain persons aged greater than or equal to 18 years in certain settings, booster for Janssen vaccine recipients. So, uh, again, if you see unvaccinated's numbers went down, this side is not really moving up and down with boosters or other. They are staying steady. So I'm sure that boosters have an effect, and that we have discussed it many times, that if somebody's immune system has waned and they are at risk, you give them a booster, you ramp up their immune system again, and they would have protection. And that is why I think boosters should be selectively offered to say somebody who needs it, they should get it, and there should be criteria for who needs it. Instead of saying, you know what, now we are going to pivot our language and we're going to call it up to date or not. And for the years to come, we would just keep asking you, are you up to date or not? And that would give us a reason to give you yearly boosters or 6 monthly boosters and so on. Here, if you see, the boosters have at least not done much. But the study itself says, the authors say, we need to conduct more studies around boosters in the similar way. So they're not actually claiming that we have sufficient booster data for you to bank on. They're saying that data needs to be collected. So we should stay fair to the data and the authors here. So with this, I want to show you the remaining diagrams. So this is the diagram of incidental laboratory confirmed COVID-19 cases. The previous diagram that you just showed was hospitalization. That was for California. This is the cases by vaccination and previous diagnosis. So once again, if you see here, this big blue line is unvaccinated. And then if you see down here, this dashed blue line is vaccinated. And below that, those tiny two small lines are previously infected only and previously infected and vaccinated. They stay down and they stay down. You could see here with the unvaccinated chart, there is a ripple in that, or downward trend in that. You could see that similar trend with the vaccinated as well. I don't think that trend is coming from the boosters, because if that was the case, then unvaccinated would not show that trend. So that may be the societal dynamics, restrictions, masks, going out, not going out, many other such factors. Boosters have, once again, I'll keep repeating it so I'm not misunderstood. Boosters have their own value in certain places. So this is very interesting data. Then this is the, I believe, New York. So if you see here, New York had a different kind of a dynamic. And so these are the unvaccinated individuals. This is their dynamic, the big solid blue line. The dashed blue line is kind of rippling with it, and that is vaccinated. Again, their hazard rate is higher than the bottom two lines, which are previously infected and previously infected plus vaccinated. The best protection was previously infected by and vaccinated. Then the second best was previously infected. Third best was vaccinated, and then unvaccinated were. I actually think this is such a beautiful data that if we could get more data from this, and we could then look at it, the unvaccinated group, for example, and if we could break that down by age, by gender, by comorbidities, you might actually be able to create more graphs over here to say between 18 to 30, this is what is a trend. This is between 30 to 40, this is a trend between this and this. And then you could do the same with the comorbidities as well. We don't have that data, but that would be interesting. And then finally, this is the number that I already discussed as well. This is the performance or protection offered by various vaccines. So if you see here, the top blue line is no previous COVID-19, meaning just the vaccine. That is Johnson and Johnson or Janssen. So highest incidence rate amongst these. So, or I can say it this way, Janssen was the weakest in protection, then Pfizer, and then Moderna. These are these three big lines. And then down here, this intertwined lines that are going together, that is previously infected plus vaccinated with various um, types. So you can actually see the contribution is from the previously infected. Otherwise, without the previous infection, they were all roaming around higher up. And then previous infection just brought them all down. All these vaccines could claim success, even more success, when they became intertwined with the previous infection. Similar result here in the New York as well. So, very interesting data points. Again, problem is that um, getting infected has a chance of dying as well. So that is a problem. Hopefully, as the virus continues to change, hopefully it would continue to change towards positive. Okay, so this is the discussion. I'm going to hang up now. I'll come back a little later and we'll do one more talk about the long term protection by the coronaviruses. I think you would really feel great with that one. It's a small study, but worth looking at. So, with this, thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you would like to support this work, there are 3 links in the description. You can buy me a coffee, or you can become a patron, or you can use PayPal. Thank you very much, and I would see you in a few minutes again.